So we are going to hear from some colleagues in a large suburban district in Utah with whom REL West has worked. Jenny and I both have worked with them. And we're going to start with a school administrator and hear about his desire to better support the kids in his schools graduate on time, how that led to wanting to use data in some different ways, and then we'll turn to a district representative about how at the same time they were also trying to improve the use of data and graduation rates, and then how they worked together to begin implementing and customizing an early warning system that would work for them. Here is the Davis School District logo, where they put learning first. And our first presenter is the principal of North Davis Junior High School, Brian Hunt. That school is a Title I grade 7 through 9 school. And next year, Brian will be returning to Northridge High School in the same district to be the principal there after serving there previously as an assistant principal. Before becoming a school administrator, he taught history, and his focus is effectively using data and resources to promote student learning in a positive school culture and climate. He grew up in Northern California, but he lived here in Utah for almost 20 years.
Thanks, Kenwin. I want to take a minute and give some background of how I ended up working with my district on developing an early warning system. Like Kenwin mentioned, I was previously an assistant principal at Northridge High School. It's one of 8 high schools in Davis District. And I got there shortly after I arrived at Northridge. I learned that our students with disabilities as a group had the lowest graduation rate among the 8 high schools in Davis District. That was a huge concern. While our general graduation rate was in line with the district, our students with disabilities had a very low graduation rate. And so we decided to take some action. We ended up partnering with REL West and the National Dropout Prevention Center for Students with Disabilities because our needs and goals as a school aligned with their institutional objectives. So as we partnered with them, we kind of held hands and went through this process of figuring out how we can increase our graduation rate or prevent dropouts among our students with disabilities. But at Northridge, we decided to expand our efforts to all students to prevent dropouts among any student, regardless of what subgroup they might be in, and to increase our graduation rate. And our goals in developing an early warning system were to provide the right interventions for the right students, and again, for all students. We all know that too many students participating in some interventions can bog it down and make it less effective, and not enough students participating in an intervention might mean that we're likely not serving students that may need that intervention. So we wanted a system that could help us better identify students in need of intervention and get them in the right one. At the high school, our goal overall was to increase our graduation rate and prevent dropouts. And at the junior high, we wanted to ensure all of our students would leave and then transition to the high school on track with all of their required credits, knowledge, and skills. As we considered our school goals to promote student achievement and prevent students from dropping out, but before we considered an early warning system, we took time to reflect on our current practices and school climate. We asked ourselves, what is the school experience like for our students, especially our at-risk students? And some areas that we looked at and reflected on were attendance, academic success, parent engagement, school climate, and student engagement, among others. And we reflected on what are we doing, what could we be doing better, who are the people responsible for these areas. And you can kind of see there in the image the action plan. This was a form provided to us by our partners at the Utah State Office of Ed and REL West and the National Dropout Prevention Center. And it was a nice template to help us reflect on the experiences our students were having and led us to understand better how we could help them. So after spending some time and energy reflecting on our school's practices and the experiences of our students, we realized that we had some good interventions in place. We realized that we needed to be better and more efficient in identifying students who are in need of these interventions. And ideally, we wanted to identify these students early so they could have early intervention. Having a lot of students that need a lot of intervention, a lot of help. Again, I'm at currently at a Title I school. It can be overwhelming. And so this is one reason why it's very important in this process to have a good team put together. So a previous early warning system webinar, I think it was the 101, outlined what makes a good team. And they list here, you want to include team members that have authority to make decisions, knowledge of diverse students, knowledge of a range of available interventions, expertise to manage and analyze data, representation from the district, and someone who's familiar with the EWS tool and student information. And so think about in your schools, who fits these positions? In the Davis School District, we have what we call the local case management team. And each school in our district puts together a team with individuals who meet all of those other requirements listed from the previous slide. So people who have the authority to make decisions, knowledge of diverse students, knowledge of a range of available interventions, expertise to manage and analyze data. We also work closely with experts from our district, people from student services and special education and research and assessment. And in the Davis School District, our local case management teams, or what we call LCMTs, typically include administrators, counselors, school psychologists, special educators, regular education teachers, and then district support, people from like assessment, research, and student services. Now, these district people don't attend our regular meetings, but they serve in an advisory and a support role to us. And when we started developing an early warning system, we didn't decide to create a whole new team. We simply took an existing team, or LCMT, and made it better by focusing their work. Before our journey into the early warning system, the work of our local case management teams relied solely on referrals from teachers, counselors, or administrators, and occasionally we'd have some data from reports that we'd run from our student information system. But now we've been able to add reports and data that help us identify students who likely need intervention to succeed in school, but have not been identified for intervention otherwise. So the Davis School District and Dr. Toon, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, we're working to create an early warning system that meets the needs of our schools and our students. And kind of a wish list, as we've talked about what we want our early warning system to look like. We want live information, up-to-date information. Early we're working with what I would consider old and outdated information, less helpful. We wanted the ability to adjust our cutoffs or thresholds for risk factors, you know, when we're looking at the common flags of attendance behavior in fourth grade, to adjust those in our district or to adjust them at each school to flag the students that we feel like we can best help. We want flexibility to flag students based on multiple combinations of risk factors. And again, Logan, Dr. Toon will be discussing more of these in detail in a few minutes. One thing there is to track intervention success. You know, we're considering we have limited resources. A really important question is, are interventions that students being exposed to, are they working? This is something that our schools and our district team we're continuing to work on to measure the effectiveness of intervention so that we can make sure we have, the right students and the right intervention and that we're using our resources wisely. In a minute, Dr. Toon will share some data about our school district that shows our efforts to identify and intervene on behalf of at-risk students is working. Briefly, though, I want to share with you what I've seen, what the outcome has been at the high school I was at previously and that I'm going back to, and the junior high where I'm currently at. We have seen at our junior high fewer courses failed by our students as we've found the right interventions for them. The graduation rate is up at Northridge and at all high schools in our school district. And our local case management teams have more resources and data and a better focus to help students succeed. At the school level, we've relied heavily on our school district for support. Our superintendency has provided us with accountability and support. Our programmers have worked to build the EWS, or the early warning system. Student services, they've given us direction on effective interventions. And Dr. Toon from Assessment and Research has been particularly helpful in the process. He's been, in our district, the key leader in developing and in this effort to create an early warning system. He's the smartest guy I know, and with that, I'll turn the time to Kenwin to introduce Dr. Toon.
And I'll just say, as an outside observer, the relationship between Brian and Dr. Toon, so the schools and the district here in Davis, is really fantastic. And so they both want the same things, and they've been working together really amazingly, compared to a lot of places that I've seen where it's not quite as frequently collaborative and so iteratively supportive. So I'm just constantly amazed by both Brian Hunt and Logan Toon.